Good afternoon here where I happen to be, and good whatever it is wherever you happen to be. Um, just a really quick one. Somebody mentioned somewhere BIOS in one of the comments for my previous videos, and I thought it's been a while since I checked the BIOS on this computer. So we're going to do that. So first of all, BIOS really is a misnomer nowadays. So before, or it still does, stand for Basic Input Output System. And in the early days, you would set stuff like system interrupts and clock speeds, drive configurations, and things like that. But now it's more just sort of firmware. Ultimately, it does the same sorts of things. But what the firmware does on a modern motherboard is quite a bit more. Anyway, that's a minor detail. Everybody, if you say BIOS, everybody knows what you're talking about. So how do we, or why, first of all, do we want to keep it up to date? So generally, unless you're unlucky and you're CloudStrike, you want to keep everything up to date as much as possible, and the main reason is because that is more secure. And in theory, more stable. There are bug fixes, so your experience should be better. Also, you can buy a motherboard. So I've got the 5600 Ryzen CPU in here. It's a super common socket. I think it's the M2N socket, if I can remember correctly. Very, very popular socket, and it means that I could take this CPU and put it in just about any other motherboard that has this socket, provided that it has the up-to-date BIOS, so the up-to-date firmware, because the firmware knows how to operate with that CPU. So it's quite handy if you have a computer and you want to give it an upgrade. Maybe it's getting a little bit old. You've got an appropriate CPU or something that you want to chuck in there, update the BIOS, and you can run different hardware. It may even give you subtle performance and tweaks as well. Artificial AI overclocking and tuning and tweaking and stuff like that. So that explains what the BIOS is, why you might want to update it, and I'll just go right into how you will do that. So the first thing that you need to know is, well, what motherboard am I upgrading? So the easiest way to do that one is just to open up system information, and we can look at the baseboard product here, which is the X570. So if we open up a browser, we can type in the Asus Prime X570 Pro. I believe that is what X570P. Okay, I don't quite have the Pro. I've got the P. Here we are, and that's a picture of my motherboard. I think I recognise this little thing over here. So yeah, that looks like my board. Good Windows 11. That's good to know. I am already running Windows 11, but fine. So generally you click on support. So if you need drivers, documentation, don't know why it goes to the FAQ. So yeah, documentation, various languages, your drivers, and also the support. So as we can see here, these are earlier Ryzen 3s, and these are supported all the way up to the Ryzen 9 5950X or the 5900X, and mine is here, the 5600. So there's mine. That's nice to know, right? You've also got the memory as well, but let's face it, like if you buy the RAM, DDR4 with the appropriate clock speeds for the motherboard, 99 times out of 100, or 999 times out of 1,000, it's just going to work. So I don't get too carried away with that. Ooh, now this is interesting. This is just blank. Oh no, it just took a little while to load up. I will have to switch. Oh, actually, so here's the thing. A few ways of doing BIOS updates. So in the past, you might have to put it onto a floppy disk, or you know, thumb drive, and boot the computer up with the thing on the thumb drive, and you know, run through the process. Be really careful not to have a power interruption or something, because you might just corrupt the little EEPROM on the motherboard and just cook your firmware essentially. And the only fix would be to reflash that EEPROM if you have an EEPROM writer, or you know, pull the chip out of another motherboard, or contact the manufacturer or somebody else who can source that part for you. These days it can be done from Windows or from the operating system, and they have a utility that will just do that for you. And you can see there's some reasons here why you might want to do the upgrade as well. I don't think I've upgraded in at least a year, so I might get some process of vulnerability improvements there to make my computer more secure against, I would imagine, generally quite sophisticated attacks. I'm not that important, so I can't imagine a state actor is trying to read secrets off my computer by, you know, banging bits on certain channels of RAM and trying to read what is in the next bank of RAM across and things like that. So I think I'm probably fine for most of these sophisticated CPU attacks. Plus, I only use the computer for gaming and everything. There's nothing really secret on here anyway. So anyway, I'm just going to download the thing, and hopefully it has the utility BIOS renamer. Interesting. Let's go to my downloads. It's kind of I need to get used to using Windows 11, but it's kind of like I want to go up a level, but it's taken me inside the zip there. So let's just go to the downloads there, and extract all. BIOS renamer. There's no real instructions here. That's a beta. Oh, that's a beta version actually. I think I'm gonna pass on a. Yeah, sorry. That's the 520. I'm not gonna run. I don't even know why that is in the list to begin with. Okay, whatever. Yep. Yeah, I don't recommend running a beta driver, beta firmware on your computer, unless you know you're having this specific CPU exception when adjusting this crap. Okay, I had something popped up and I didn't even read it. I should. I think there might have been an issue with a zip file. Let's try that again. There was some data after the end of the payload data. Interesting. What annoys me here is there's no checksum, so I can't just like validate that the thing downloaded successfully. But what I will do is I'll download it a second time, and I will extract that one. Did I open? Yeah, okay. Let's kill that. Yes, alright. Let's extract all. Windows doesn't care, so 7-zip. Yeah, okay. 7-zip complains. Windows doesn't care. So perhaps I will just delete that one. And we will extract here. Huh? I thought didn't I delete the folder? Why is that? Okay, there we go. Cool. All right. Not a beta version, which is good. This is 5013, and that is from April this year. So it should be an upgrade. Generally, it'll tell you. So obviously, I'm using OBS to record this. If I restart the computer, you're not going to. I'm going to stop the recording unless I start using my phone. Then the audio will be slightly different. So what I'm going to do is generally when you run these tools, it'll tell you what your BIOS version is, and what it's upgrading from and what it's upgrading to. So that's all I'm going to do. But you can, when you restart your computer and you see it, that initial loading screen, and provided you don't have the settings so that you've hidden that, you can see your BIOS version, or you can go into the BIOS itself, or the firmware configuration utility, or whatever you want to call it, and you can find the version in there, and then you can compare that with on the thing. If you really want to say, oh, do I, I know my firmware is working really well, do I really want to upgrade? Well, you can have a look. So if you're running 4802, you can say, oh, there's these BitLocker things and this vulnerabilities that have been fixed, so maybe it's worthwhile with the update there or not. But generally, it's just nice to have things up to date. Yeah. One thing I was going to say before is, in the past, there'll be these very ominous warnings about don't have a power outage during this time. But things have moved forward now, so flash memory is just cheap and abundant, and you can, this cap file, which is, just a binary hex file or whatever. It's 32 megs, and 32 megs is absolutely nothing. So what they tend to do is just have like an A/B configuration, or multiple, on the flash chip that's on the motherboard, and when you're in the process of updating, all it does is just copies that cap or that DAT file into the B slot of that chip, and then it'll perform a checksum. And if everything is good, then it will say, well, from now on, we're going to use B. So the next time you boot up your computer, you now boot up with the new BIOS. But the old firmware is still in the A slot, or A, B, whatever you want to call it, which is good, because if there is something wrong with the new one, if it just doesn't like your hardware and it's not posting or operating correctly, it will have an attempt. It will realize something went wrong, and it will point back to what you had before. So certainly don't recommend you test this at home. Don't pull the power cord from the back of your computer in the middle of performing this process. But if you do happen, it used to be quite a stressful process doing a BIOS update. I remember, I used to get the shakes and the sweats doing it, because it's like, oh, if I screw this up, I'll really kill my computer. Although it's like, how often do you have a power cut? But now it's even safer process. So you can't really screw it up. So you can go into this and not be too concerned. Now, I haven't read the documentation. I think it's just ignored my little / question mark there. Might even just hit Control-C there and just try that without the thing. Okay, it's saying they're going to go from px570p.cap to px570p.cap. This file has been renamed. To use the BIOS flashback, copy it to the root of your USB flash drive. Okay, so I'm going to have to get the phone out. That's kind of annoying. I'm going to have to chuck it on a flash drive, and we're gonna do the BIOS. We're gonna do the BIOS update. We're 14 minutes in. Let's see if we can keep this under 20 minutes. It shouldn't take that long. So I'll just chuck in the memory stick right now. Or we can even just, I've got like a tiny, like a 4 gig. Doesn't have to be particularly fast. So I'm just going to use this crappy old, 2 gigs. Look at that. Blast from the past. There's me just unplugging whatever was plugged in just now. We'll use this one. Might even have some old files that... let me just pause that for a sec. Are we paused? Are we recording? Oh no, sorry, we are recording. Yeah, cool. So this thing used to be in a phone at one point in time. So that's awesome. There's some... Yeah, there's just blasting through some old photos. There's me with a lid that I made for the fish tank in acrylic. This is from 14 years ago, so so there's Captain Janeway, and a gate that I've some old projects. Still use this gate. It's still 100, like, just works perfectly now. And that was one of the first times I did a weld. So little blast from the past there. It should all be good, but I'm going to chuck that on the NAS because that's like pretty valuable stuff. So it should find the NAS. It should be switched on. Maybe I'll just chuck it on the hard drive for now, and I will come back to that later. I'll stick it on the desktop. Yeah, let's paste that, and we will deal with that off camera. I don't think there's anything else interesting on here. It's just the photos that I'd be interested in. Clockwork mod. So I was probably playing around with some... Yep, okay. I don't know why it's not picked up the NAS, but that's fine. What's that? Radio.image side loading apps or something. Cool. Alright, anyway, I'm gonna format this. So right click, format, copy the files across, and then I'll get the phone out and we will record the final step. Alright, we switched to the phone. Put the phone between me and the computer there. Hopefully it doesn't wobble around too much in the gimbal when I jog the desk. FAT32 is going to be an absolutely safe bet there, so we'll chuck that in. Just a quick format. Should be perfectly fine there. Please pardon the Ring doorbell there. It's just my family coming and going. Okay, so now we have a completely empty drive. I don't recommend having anything other than you know, the cap file that we want for the motherboard there. Okay, so that's on the drive. We can eject that one. And I'm going to restart the computer, and what I was talking about before I'll show you as well. So let's shut this thing down. Let's do a complete shutdown. And it's interesting, the monitor looks fine to me, but it looks very grimy on the phone. So probably due for a bit of a wipe down at some point. So let's hit F2 to go into the UEFI BIOS settings. And it should give us a version somewhere. Let's have a look around. Nothing along there. Information. There's your version, 4204. So I think we're newer than 4204. I can't remember. I think we had something that started with a 5. So let's power it off. Chuck in the USB drive. And I believe it should just pick it up automatically. If it doesn't, we might need to go into the BIOS and kick off the update ourselves, but we'll just see what happens. You know what? I think I'm gonna go into the BIOS there and hit delete. And let's go advanced tool, easy flash. I think this is what we want. It's picked up. There's the PX570p. I don't have BitLocker in the operating system, so that should be fine. I'm pretty sure I don't. YOLO. Let's. I've just clicked yes there, so we're flashing the BIOS. So we're going from 4204 4202, I think. There it is, 4202. And we're going to go to 5013 there. And it's as easy as that. So we've got the dialog, it's processing. It'll perform a checksum and validation at the end. And then next time we boot up the BIOS, it'll be 5013. So you don't need to watch this thing go across there. So I think I'll just save the memory instead of doing a little fast forward montage or something. I'll just stop recording. All right, this thing is refusing to focus, which is driving me a little bit crazy there. Anyway, I'd hoped to get the last few increments in the bar there, but there really wasn't much to show there. As you can imagine, the bar went all the way to the far right, and then afterwards it said it was done. So now the BIOS is actually, if I come up a little tiny bit, am I zoomed all the way out? The BIOS is updating LED firmware. So do not shut down or reset the system to prevent boot up failure. As I mentioned before, though, I obviously don't go testing this, but you should be, if there is a power cut, you should be okay because of the whole AB boot up process there. So that should be it. So we should be able to hit delete. Oh no, there is a new, which will change the data structure of TPM. If you did not apply TPM function, press Y. If you have BitLocker, please follow the instructions below. Press N to keep the previous FTPM record and continue the boot. I'm just going to hit Y. I think that'll be fine. It would be bad if I screwed up there. All right, now we should be able to hit delete, and we should see that we're in the new BIOS there. All right, third time's the charm. Hit delete. Please enter setup to recover BIOS settings. Okay, all right, let's hit F1. So there's a little bit of extra screwing about, but you can see we're up to 5013 now. Let's hit F1. Hopefully not all of my BIOS settings have been completely erased. That would be kind of frustrating. So I guess the main things that I had before was I had virtualization enabled. I don't know if that was on before. I don't think I had any SVM. Is that? I think that's what they call, yeah, virtualization. So everybody, you know, AMD or Intel, they all seem to have their own little name for it. Yeah, the other one. Hang on, I want to go back. How do I go back? Oh, we've got to click on the word. Okay. I think everything else is pretty much fine. I generally try not to screw around with things too much. We can do some tests and stuff. The only other thing was the XMP or the profiles for the RAM. I think that's the DOCP. And then there's my DOCP choices. So generally want the lower latency there on the RAM. Everything else I'm probably just going to leave exactly as it is. I get plenty of performance. I'm pretty sure I'm good for 3200 though. But let me see. Let me go back to auto and then go back to DOCP. Did that just remember what I had before? Oh, okay. So that's the 3200 with the higher latency, and then there's the 3000 with the lower latency. So I think we'll go with the 3200 with a higher latency there. Cool. So that should just work out of the box because that's the OCP. I'm not going to bother doing the CPU or anything else like that. Everything else should just work. So let's save and exit. Save changes and reset. So we've gone on with a DOCP, which includes all this stuff, and then we've enabled virtualization. And that's all I really care about so far, so we'll click OK. And hopefully everything boots up and we get our operating system. And as it alluded to before, if things don't go to plan, there's always the AB BIOS situation, so we can just revert back to the previous BIOS. But I can see here that Windows 11 has loaded with no trouble at all. I haven't bothered with BitLocker. I don't have anything super secret that I need to, you know, keep locked away. I don't have any client confidential information or anything like that. But that's it. That's the whole process. So we've gone from version 4200, whatever it was, up to 5013. And now the BIOS is up to date. So my computer's slightly more secure, potentially more stable, and supports more CPUs. So I can use a more modern CPU in this motherboard if I did feel like upgrading. But since it plays the games that I like to play at the speed and quality that I like to play them at, there really isn't much point for me to upgrade the CPU at this point in time. So there's another, compared to previous videos, a quick one. And I'm just going to get that posted online right now. And now you know how to upgrade an Asus X570P motherboard. But the process is very similar for others generally. You might want to refer back to the documentation from the motherboard. Otherwise, there'll be other guides online. But hopefully, this is all you need. Okay, hope you enjoy. Thank you.